Welcome. Today, we're sitting down with our distinguished guest, Jessica Jensen, Chief Marketing Officer at Indeed, where she's responsible for brand, communication, product, and acquisition marketing globally. Jessica's impressive career spans leadership roles at Apple and Yahoo, spearheading B2B marketing for Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and other meta platforms, followed by her tenure as Chief Marketing Officer at OpenTable. Jessica began her professional journey at the Boston Consulting Group. She holds an MBA from INSEAD, a master's in international relations from UCSD, and a BA from Amherst College. Let's go for it, Jessica. Again, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm also a mom of a 13-year-old girl, a mother.
Congratulations.
Thank you. A mother of 2 Shih Tzus, brother and sister. And my husband, we celebrated 20 years of marriage yesterday. Whoa. So I have to give him a special shout out. He works for the Nature Conservancy. He is a certified tree hugger. And we live just south of the city of San Francisco. So it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
I love that breakdown. I would love to include those personal breakdowns. That makes it 20 times more human. Thank you for sharing that.
I usually have all of that in my bio, but I'll make sure that.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would also, I don't know how comfortable. Some people don't want to share those things, right? They're like, don't talk about my dogs. You're like,
no, I'm
I'll
so
just sorry.
Tell you for the purpose of this conversation, I always tell people I am oppressively open and transparent. So you can talk to me about my journey with fertility,
wow,
being a mom and a worker. Like we can go into any nook and cranny that you want to go into.
I love that. Well, we're all human, and it's tied into very much what we do for our work, for our passion. So very, very thank you. Very cool for sharing all of that. So let's start with, for those who never heard of Indeed, what does it do? Who is the average Indeed customer, and what problem are you helping them solve?
Yeah, so we're the largest hiring and matching platform in the world. We have 350 million job seekers who come to us every month looking for new opportunities. We have about 3.5 million employer customers, also super global. So we operate in 60 countries. And we are by far the market leader in the US, UK, and Canada. We are in the top 2 in France, Germany, Japan, and a bunch of other markets. So hugely global. Our mission is to help people get jobs. It's very simple and clear. We believe that talent is universal, but there is not equality of opportunity. So we are very, very purposefully dedicated to helping people overcome barriers to employment. That can be race, education background, LGBTQ status, previous incarceration, et cetera, et cetera. So we have set a goal to get 100 million people jobs by 2030. 30 million of those people will be people who face barriers to employment. So our social mission is as important as our business. We are owned by a Japanese holding company called Recruit. It's one of the largest companies in Japan. It's kind of like the IAC of Japan. So they own a wide variety of internet businesses. They also own Glassdoor, Staffmark, and a bunch of companies in the recruiting sector in Japan. We at Indeed, we go to market with Glassdoor, so we sell together to our clients. And then we also have a division called Indeed Flex, which is for flex and gig work that we're growing in various places around the world. So trying to be the most democratic platform for job seekers and help employers make their hiring faster, easier, and help them connect to great candidates whatever their stripe of need is.
Well, thank you. Beautiful overview. There's a number of things that you mentioned that we definitely are going to go deeper on. Before doing that, you've led in marketing in a number of leading companies, and Are there steps or questions that you ask yourself every time you jump into a new leadership role at a company? You know, I feel like people always hope or look for some form of playbook. You know, is there something you found yourself doing over and over again that has been effective, that has helped you?
That's a great question. Let me clarify first that I always tell people I am a business strategist and a GM first who became a marketer over
Mm,
time. So I think that distinction is pretty important because I didn't come up through like the brand agency path or kind of some more traditional marketing paths, right? I was a strategy consultant with BCG. I ran two consumer businesses for Yahoo. I was the founder of my own startup. We can get into that if you want to.
oh, cool. Hmm.
So I am really like a business person who decided that the unification of art and math in marketing was a passion area for me, but I didn't start from there. So I think the way to answer your question more
Hmm.
directly, then, when I come into a new business, I am thinking about market growth, go-to-market strategy, penetration, international expansion, product development, sales and go-to-market unification, and their relationship to marketing, not some of the more traditional like grow the brand. I mean, I have to also grow the brand. That's critical to what I do, but
Hmm.
I'm much more of an integrated thinker across business objectives, market growth, sales, product marketing in conjunction. I also am constantly obsessed with what I call brand formance. So I think that, as many of you have probably seen in your travels around the business world, brand and performance marketing are often separated in really ineffective and dangerous ways. In some companies, they're even not on the same team,
Let's
which
get
I've always,
I
you want to,
actually I had a question regarding that, and since you're mentioning it, maybe let's get into
sure,
that a little bit deeper.
sure.
What is uh maybe let's start off with for those that performance marketing and brand marketing, what's the difference, and where do you believe, you know, that that gap, let's jump into that. We'll love
Sure,
to
sure,
learn more
sure.
of it.
So traditionally, performance marketing, or sometimes called growth marketing, is really around quantitative driven, typically acquisition and life cycle marketing, that is focused on moving, core metrics, customer numbers, revenue numbers, et cetera. Whereas brand marketing is traditionally thought of as the narrative, the message, the story that you tell in the market about what your brand stands for, what your distinct position in the market is. And so
And that
the,
usually leads, you know, performance marketing. It's exactly what you mentioned, uh, based on that quick return on investment, which I would assume leads into,
hopefully,
which would assume
ideally,
leads into shorter type of campaigns, whereas brand is that
I think that's a good distinction. I think that,
longer
yes,
term vision,
yeah.
longer campaigns, sticking to things longer, and maybe a bit more emphasis on the customer
No, I think
experience, or
I
what?
mean, I think good performance marketing and good brand marketing is always focused on the customer need and how your solution or product answers that need.
Mhm.
Now, I think what you said about timelines is usually true, right? You build trust in a brand, awareness of a brand, consideration over a longer term. And so you're investing over time to build that. Whereas performance marketing typically has a shorter return cycle and maybe a more linear return cycle, right? Like, I spend X amount of dollars on Google search, I acquire Y customers, that gives me a CAC of X, et cetera. Whereas a brand investment may be 5 million, 10 million. It depends on the size of the company and the country, et cetera. But your return horizon and your metrics for tracking brand can be different. They can
Mhm.
also be directly correlated to to revenue and other metrics in many cases. But I think the key point that I'm always trying to make is that brand reinforces performance, performance reinforces brand, and that it's an incredibly tight Venn diagram. And if you're doing good brand marketing, your search, your email, your everything will perform better, and vice versa. And that's why I think it's so dangerous to have those functions not in the same organization.
How do you make sure that they're talking with one another, right? So
Yeah.
like you mentioned, and do you normally begin with brand? Is brand your go-to, and then everything leads from there, or
No.
how can they coexist in the best way possible?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in the startup environment, most companies start with performance, right? And that's because you have limited resources, you have to drive growth, you have to show metrics movement quickly. That's also true in a lot of larger businesses, but a lot of smaller businesses don't even have the luxury to invest in brand, right?
Mm,
But when they do invest in brand, they will see if they are tightly aligned, and if you have your core messages sorted out and your benefit statements and your proof points aligned across performance and brand, you will see movement on both fronts that is mutually reinforcing.
mm,
But so no, I think, but back to your question, when I go into a new business, I have to look at an incredible amount of data and insights and analytics around what is your level of awareness and equity and trust and consideration as a brand. What are the salient benefits that consumers, be they B2B or B2C, engage with and respond to in a brand setting and in a performance setting? And then determine, okay, we've got a brand awareness problem here or opportunity. We've got a conversion challenge on some core benefits on a performance front here, and allocate resources and investment based on that. So I would not say there's one playbook like, you should do brand, you
mm,
should do performance,
mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yep.
it's a lot more nuanced than that. And it
When
depends on the gestation of the business and the competition.
when you're dealing with a number of products, um, how do you go about, what's your approach with prioritizing the product, the narrative of whichever product it is or service, or is it all, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I've worked on a number of multi-platform, multi-brand businesses. Certainly at Facebook when I was there, now Meta. I was overseeing B2B marketing for, at the end, 7 platforms, which I don't wish on anyone. It's incredibly challenging. Now I'm working across 3 platforms in the US, 6 in Japan. So yeah, I mean, I think again, it really starts with customer needs, right? Like when I was at Meta, it was like, okay, if you're running a small business in India, you're using WhatsApp, you are definitely not using Facebook Messenger, you're using Facebook. What are the need states for certain customers that they would use on WhatsApp, Facebook, et cetera, and really thinking about the customer needs and which products and services match to those needs, and
Mm,
making our offering against those needs distinctive from the competition. So, it all, or now like at Indeed, we have Glassdoor, which is really for employer branding
mhm,
and awareness in certain knowledge worker categories. We have Indeed, which is kind of the democratic marketplace of all job seeking and matching. And then we have Indeed Flex in certain markets, which is for certain need states around short-term work. And so with each of our employer, I mean, we have Bob's Pizza Shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He just needs bus people, right? And
mhm,
runners, right?
mhm.
But then Amazon, our other customer, is hiring for 75 different types of roles in all these different countries. And so we're targeting our solutions at them obviously very differently.
when when we're talking about brand marketing and performance marketing, community marketing, are there, I mean, and that's very similar within brand, but are there community programs or initiatives that you're leading right now? And are there lessons learned from that? I ask this because for a number of founders that already are in their Series A, Series B, they have that product market fit, they're in that growth stage, and they're trying to be the best that they can for that customer, be there for them, and they're also trying to leverage, how do you continue building that trust with that customer, not just about the product, but about just their needs, right?
Yeah, right. No, I think that's a great point. So, one area that we're very deeply invested in is healthcare. That is a long-term growth category for employers and for job seekers. And you can imagine within the healthcare arena, there are many, 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 many different roles and types of institutions, et cetera. So we are not only trying to provide the best job seekers to our healthcare employers, we're trying to position ourselves as a thought leader to healthcare employers, right? So on the performance basis, it's like we have the dental hygienists, home healthcare assistants, nurses, doctor, all of the talent that you need for your jobs. And we have a group of labor market economists called the Hiring Lab, where we are assessing our own internal data, external market data, government data, et cetera, to help advise companies and industry bodies and governments on trends and developments. And so for our healthcare customers, we provide a lot of very specialized insights and data to help them forecast their talent needs, think about return to office and all of the different things that are going on in the world of work. What is the impact of AI on the future of work? So it's really a combination of that, what I would call brand investment around thought leadership, paired with excellent performance matching and marketing across job seekers and employers.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Are there particular marketing, I want to say campaigns, but I'd love to find out, like, what is one of the biggest challenges for you right now that you're facing in Indeed, right? What does that look like? And are those challenges, and it doesn't just have to be Indeed, but are these things that are very similar and reflective to previous experiences that you had? Like, has the dynamic of the game evolved over time and made it so that, like, these are brand new challenges, or it's kind of like the same challenge, just masked differently?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think we are in a period of deep economic, social, political uncertainty and upheaval. Is the US escaping recession? Yes or no? Which sectors are growing? Is AI going to decimate labor in certain sectors? The UK is experiencing terrible inflation and uncertainty. Japan is growing. Germany's doing very well. So I would say just the patchwork quilt of complexity and fear and uncertainty, coupled with we're still going through the fallout of COVID. People are exhausted, burned out. A lot of people feel underpaid for the work they do. The return to office debate is raging. People are taking more polarized points of view on that. So I think us acting as an advisor to and a co-navigator to employers in all of these different sectors, in all of these different countries, is really, really challenging.
Right.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a privilege to be involved in these incredibly important social and political issues and debates. But it is challenging and staying on top. I mean, in the United States, we're in an environment where LGBTQ discrimination is being codified into law all over the place, and we have to advise employers on how to respond to and
Mm,
hopefully counter that discrimination, as just one example. So I would say, for me, as a comms leader, a strategic business advisor, a marketer, to try to help everybody inside Indeed understand and deal with this complexity, while we also advise 350 million job seekers and 3.5 million employers around the world, is uniquely exciting, to say the least. But your question about, do I like, I mean, I ran marketing for Open Table during COVID. Okay, I've never seen a business go to zero revenue before.
yeah.
I have seen that spreadsheet, right? And then the ramifications that fall out from that. So I feel like every job, and I was deeply involved in the Cambridge Analytica stuff at Facebook. So every business I go to has its own crises and challenges, and really adaptability and learning how to respond proactively and calmly and humanely is the muscle that I'm always trying to build,
Mm.
and trying to share with other people. So that I see as a very repetitive cycle.
I mentioned this a little, and I might just be really, uh, I'm very fascinated by this, about the prioritization of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you break down? Because for some people, they're just very talented at being able to do it, right? Like it's very natural, and for most people, there are things, there are steps that you can take. And I'm speaking as a founder, there. Um, there's so many challenges that you just mentioned at scale, which is
Yeah.
like crazy. It's hard to even conceive of it. As a founder, there's so much uncertainty
Yeah.
within what you're doing, your product, who likes it. They say they like it, but they also say they like it. Where are you going to concentrate? Like, is it them or is it the other people? Right? Like, which is a bigger market? What speaks to you more? Right? Like all these
Yeah.
questions. Are there particular, is there like a methodology, or are there particular steps or things that you've come across that you're like, I like to, before making a decision or before making on where we're going after,
Yeah.
are there certain things that you find yourself kind of following?
Yes, and I would say it's quite different depending on the stage and scale and size of the business,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So I ran a small startup. I worked at a company called Investors Business Daily, which was like $100 million stock market newspaper at the
Mm,
time. Um, and so what I was prioritizing and dealing with in those settings versus Facebook. And when I started at Facebook, Facebook was 4,000 people. When I left, it was 38,000 people. So our prioritization frameworks also changed drastically over
mm,
that time, right? But I would say, not surprisingly, I am still incredibly focused on having the right metrics, and very few of them that everyone understands
mm,
and can repeat from memory, and then constantly asking the question, is this big enough? Is this
mm,
big enough to care? And I will say, the bigger companies that I go to, people come to me and be like, we should do this webinar campaign for truck drivers or whatever. And I'll be like, great. Like, what is the total size of that segment? How many people do we think we can reach? How many people will join? And at a business of our scale, if the answer is less than 10,000 people, it's not worth our time.
mm.
So I always say this, I have this line: marketers are people pleasers, and they love to do as many things as possible. Right? They'll hear
Right.
from a salesperson like, customers are eating this up. It's awesome. Let's get it out. Hey, we've got an opportunity with so and so university to promote fair chance hiring. Da, da. Great. Yes, we should do that. Awesome. And then I'm the grouchy grandma who comes in and I'm like, is that worth your time? How many people are going to attend?
Right.
500, not worth it.
I love that.
So I just think like constantly asking return on labor and return on investment, is it going to move the needle? Now, when you're running a startup, you don't have any other luxury beside that. So
Uh-huh.
that prioritization becomes super clear.
Yeah.
But when you get at a bigger institution where there's more people, more opportunity, more money, then I've just had to be like ruthless about not frittering away time.
I saw a talk that you had in BI marketing conference, I believe it was,
Yeah.
and you said something that was, I mean, you said many things that I loved, but this one really stuck, which was it had to do with the importance when it comes to building, what your competitive advantage is, what your moat is. Does that ring a bell? And can you share
Sure.
what you thought is the most important thing when you're thinking about building that moat?
Well, I think this gets into the interplay of brand and performance, right? If you don't have the trust and the awareness in your brand, you're constantly chasing performance success, right? You're going to put money in to drive money out. But if you have a brand that is known and trusted, as I said previously, your performance marketing and performance efforts will work better, and you will have a buffer. And so when you have to cut budgets and things turn squirrely, that moat or that trust in you as a brand is what will often carry you through.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people think it's not worthwhile to invest in thought leadership or brand or other things like that. But the truth of the matter is it gets you through the ups and downs and will make your money go further that you're spending on performance. There's a lot, Airbnb has published a lot of information on this topic. If you haven't read that, I definitely, they decided to invest in brand and drastically cut their performance marketing. And now I think they have 80% organic traffic, which is just bonkers high.
Yeah.
And free. I mean, they've obviously spent to invest to build that, but the benefit that they will get from that over the long term is very clear.
It's priceless. To quote Jessica, and this is everything you said, I just want to reiterate exactly what you just said. Quoting Jessica here, you build your moat through the clarity of your purpose and your brand, and cutting it is at your peril. I love that. But yes, exactly. Everything that you just said right there, I very much agree with. And we only have 2 questions here, and that's it. And then I want to give time for Q&A. The other question here has to do with mistakes. Are there common mistakes that you see marketers make, that you've made, that you've learned from, that you feel, what are there any that come to mind when I share this that you're like, okay, this or this, but feel free to share.
Yeah. I've made several. I think getting super crisp and clear about your messaging house and the distinct competitive offering that you have, being like we have a thing that I've used at a number of companies called Song Sheet. It is, we write down each audience segment, our messaging and positioning, our proof points, and how we are distinctive from the competition. And we publish that to everyone in the company. It is required to learn it and use it. So having everyone sing from the same song sheet, that's much easier in a 50-person or 150-person company, but that by the time you get to 1,000 people, it's a goat rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
So song sheet is critical. Number 2, Many, many, many marketers, I have been guilty of this myself, will overspend or overinvest in PR. And there's really good PR and there's really useless PR. And so if you don't have super tight quality and volume metrics worked out with your PR partner, you probably are spending too much money. Secondly, event marketing. Now, event marketing is an art and a science and something that I hold very dear to my heart. There are really amazing events and utterly useless events.
Right.
The number of smaller companies that I see trying to go to a bunch of different events and spend a lot of time and maybe a lot of money on that, I think there's always the opportunity to tune a finer magnifying lens on those things and really ensure that they are giving you the return on labor and the return on investment, and usually companies overextend in that arena.
I love that. And when you do get it right, they're incredible.
Oh, it can be magical. But again, you've got to ask that question, is this big enough to matter?
Thank you so much.
Stay strong, stay healthy. You are doing incredibly important work. You need to take care of yourselves. You need to take care of your teams. I have run myself ragged, as I'm sure many of you have, and that is not the way to live, and it's not the way to succeed.
Love that. Well, thank you very much, Jessica. And have a wonderful rest of
care,
the day and week. Thanks everyone over here for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
A pleasure.
Great to see you.